Hey, what's up YouTube? It is K-Rod here. I'm back with another good video for today. I wanted to make this video to talk about Timothy Bradley's recent comment about Canelo Alvarez, of what he said about Canelo, telling Caleb Plant that Canelo, he don't get tired anymore. Why Tim Bradley believes Canelo Alvarez is probably taking steroids till this day, which, I'm not really surprised because Timothy Bradley, he obviously has, this double standard that he plays in the sport of boxing. Not to say that he's doing it, the wrong way, only for the certain political, lenience, or the political leanings that favors his narrative for the sake of promoting a certain fighter or giving leverage to a fighter that he believes to be the better man out of the pack. That being, the situation, between Canelo and Caleb Plant. He obviously believes Canelo Alvarez, current three belt holding champion for the WBO, WBA, and WBC world titles, and obviously he wants Caleb Plant, who has the other chip of that stone, which will be solidified to be, undisputed, to be the best in the world for that division, as November 6th will be the undisputed title fight for Caleb Plant and Canelo Alvarez. But I find it really interesting that Timothy Bradley would go this far to say that Canelo could be, still taking steroids, which, I'm not so surprised. Canelo Alvarez, he's that type of fighter where, if he has all the money in the world and he has a sanctioning body in his pockets, you ought to think, like, to that particular degree, like, Canelo Alvarez would obviously want to do some form of cheating to make sure he wins this fight, on his terms. But the only problem that I have with this is that where was Timothy Bradley calling out cheating when it happened to guys like O'Shaquie Foster or Michael Fox? Did he ever come out to support those black fighters? No. So, for some weird reason, when it comes to a white fighter, I'm not trying to be racist by any means necessary, you come out of your way and you start dick riding for a white fighter. And I'm not to say Caleb Plant is some great white hope. He came from the mud. He definitely did what he had to do to be where he has to be. But I'm not going to sit here and say Caleb Plant is is by any means necessary, a hopeless fighter. He is a coincidentalist fighter, but he's not to the coincidental enough where, his political lenience in the sport of boxing makes it harder for him. And I'm not going to sit here and talk about white privilege. I'm not going to bring that up. I'm going to be as impartial as possible, because that's what some people like to do, to say that, oh, Caleb Plant, he got it easy. He's Al Heyman's, little, wonder boy, blah, blah, blah. But that's simply not true. Caleb Plant, he went through, the opposition needed just to get a title. And I respect Caleb Plant to the extent of him waiting for Canelo to get all the belts instead of him wasting time to get the belts himself, so that way he could just fight Canelo for undisputed. My only problem with this is that at what point can you say Caleb Plant is ready for that Canelo Alvarez fight? And I say Caleb Plant, he's more than ready to have the skills to defeat Canelo, but the issue is, who have you fought previously that has given you the battle-tested mindset to be ready for a Canelo Alvarez type of fighter? Which, that doesn't really mean anything. I think it's due to the fighter's will and the fighter's perseverance based on how the fighter reacts to the other fighter's punches. But then again, it's always good to sharpen your iron, because what is a machete compared to a regular sword that has not been sharpened? If the machete is sharper, like, yeah, if the machete is sharper than the average sword that is a cutlass, then what does that mean for the other person that has, the weaker sword? The stronger sword will always win. So that's what I mean by iron sharpening iron to the highest standard, because you have to have those skills ready in the sport of boxing. You need to have the deadlier, effects coming into the fight. You need to be the more, rush forward type of fighter. You got to be first. You have to be the more vivid. You have to be the more, elusive type of fighter, where you give that person, the biggest problems in the ring, and you don't ever let your opponent gain any momentum against you. That's why boxing is a mastermind sport. That's why boxing is a very technical sport. That's why people call it the sweet science. That's why people call it, the ultimate chess match. And that's how I see it with almost every sport in the world, especially in a solo to solo sport or a team to team sport. But when you look at it with every single sport, every sport is a chess match. That is true. The only sport where I would say there's really no chess match to, it's based off of pure simulation, which you can't really tell if you're going to win or not. And I don't even know if it's still even that. It's still considered a chess match, but I'd say the only sport ever would probably be maybe cricket. I don't even know. Honestly, it doesn't matter to me. I just wanted to kind of, make the point to say almost every sport that you play or that's, been invented, ever since the crack of dawn for human existence is a chess match type of sport. But boxing is the ultimate chess match, right next to baseball, basketball, football, soccer, anything you could think of. But for boxing, let's get right to it. Obviously, a lot of people don't think Canelo is going to get that much of a test from Caleb Plant. And many people that don't like Caleb Plant are doubting him to say that Caleb Plant, he hasn't fought nobody, blah, 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 and Canelo, he's just going to wash him up. It's going to be a very easy fight. And I disagree with that. I don't think Canelo understands that styles make fights, even though that he is very educated in the ring, but I don't think he really wants to acknowledge that, as much as you can cherry pick for the rest of your career, that one cherry pick will go wrong, where you do believe that you may think you're going to beat this guy, but then you come out of your way and then you understand that this guy's better than you and this guy can easily defeat you. And I guess what Timothy Bradley was saying to Caleb Plant about Canelo not getting tired anymore, that does raise a question, because why would Canelo need a 10-week VADA program just to be ready for this fight? Why couldn't he just fight Caleb Plant right away as soon as negotiations were met, and then boom, the fight would have been made by like September 16th or something? Definitely on Mexican Independence Day, because that's really what everybody wanted that fight to be made for Mexican Independence Day. But I guess that's not gonna happen, because Canelo, he's being a diva, trying to create all these fucking demands, and Caleb Plant obviously just wants to fight, but he doesn't want these demands trying to screw him over in case that the fight does get called off and then things don't go, the way everybody wants it to be going for. But that's why Canelo, he's been acting so strange of having all these ultimate demands against Caleb Plant, and then come to find out, it's all used in the attempt to make Caleb Plant, how should I say, uncomfortable, with the situations that Canelo is trying to give towards him. And then for some odd reason, you're going to try to make Caleb be in a catch-22 situation where he has no choice but to take this fight, because if he doesn't take this fight against Canelo, then it's going to be, it's going to be viewed as a bad image to him as a fighter, to be criticized for it, and people are going to say, oh, like, why didn't you take the Canelo fight, blah, 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 and, you should have took the fight, like, you weren't being smart, what a blah, blah, and, You should have been more dedicated to fighting Canelo. You're ducking him, blah, blah, blah. And I think that's what a lot of Canelo retards want to believe in. And they want to probably run with that narrative to say, oh, Caleb Plant, he's ducking Canelo. But remind you, Caleb Plant wanted Canelo before the Caleb Smith fight. So what Caleb Plant said prior to that issue was that he wanted to go after Canelo, but Canelo tried to force Caleb Plant he tried to make it harder for Caleb Plant to get ready for the fight, because he obviously wanted to fight Caleb Plant on like a 2-week or 3-week notice, like somewhere around there. But Caleb Plant said no to that, and that's where the fight got pushed back further. So Caleb Plant was like, okay, well, I'll just take the winner of Caleb Smith and Canelo, which, to Caleb Plant's, surprise, that's actually a very smart idea. But the problem with this was that Caleb Plant, he was sitting on the shelf for like 8 to 9 months, and now we're almost heading into like 10 months of pure inactivity ever since Caleb Plant was active back in January. So from January all the way to September, we're already in 8 months, so we're almost going to head into the 9th month. No, it's going to be 10 months. Yeah, it's going to be 10 fucking months of Caleb Plant not being back inside the ring, but Canelo, he's been in the ring like every 3 months. Which, it seems kind of good, but when you look at his opposition, Canelo is not fighting good opposition. Like, he fought that fucking trash bum in Caleb Smith. He fought Avni Yildirim, and then he fought Billy Ho Saunders, or Billy Bitch Joe Saunders. And look at how he's developed with these white fighters. Canelo, honestly, I won't be surprised if Canelo loses, because Canelo does not look better. He looks worse. He doesn't throw punches as fluidly. He feels too comfortable moving slow in the ring. His feet is garbage. And Canelo, he just gets hit more because, it just kind of looks like he kind of fights like an old Mike Tyson-ish type of style. And, I'm not trying to down Canelo's skills. He definitely has skills, but Canelo is just not this type of fighter where I think, like, okay, Caleb Plant is going to get hit with them body shots, but it's like, Canelo don't know how to cut the ring off. Like, every fight where he's been at it with a slick fighter, and I would probably say the Billy Joe Saunders fight really said it all. Because the Billy Joe Saunders was a lot more slick, and he was a lot more disciplined with his jab and his reflexes, like the Billy Joe Saunders that we saw from, like, let's just say 2016 or 2017, or I would say like from 2016 to 2018. That version of Billy Joe Saunders would annihilate Canelo. Canelo would have the hardest fight of his life fighting Billy Ho Saunders or Billy Bitch Joe Saunders. And Billy Joe Saunders could have easily defeated Canelo if he had that type of athleticism without the steroids, which that is what I'm having the biggest issue with against Billy Joe, because Billy Joe, if he wasn't taking steroids, and he probably wasn't on and off the juice, compared to Canelo, Billy Joe could have easily defeated Canelo. Like, if he was this super freakish athlete out of Britain that had this great outside boxer puncher style, which he is a southpaw, but it's like, I don't give a shit about that. Southpaws do run boxing, but not every southpaw is a good southpaw. But if you don't master your southpaw boxing abilities, then I can't put you in that category as a southpaw, because being a southpaw means you have to be dedicated to the lifestyle, and you have to manage your archetype as a fighter fighting out of that style. Because anybody could say, like, oh, I fight just like you, or we're the same fighter, blah blah blah, but that's not true until we get up inside the ring and then we see it for ourselves. Or you see me fight and I see you fight, and then I could easily tell based off your style of how you come in to, facilitate your skills and abilities. So just from that perspective alone, like, Billy Joe Saunders didn't bring the best of him out of that Canelo fight. And Canelo obviously had his way when Billy Joe was taking worthless trades with Canelo, and Canelo was piecing him up, like cut grass. And that's really what Billy Joe was going through. He was going through a beatdown, and when he got hit with that mean uppercut or that mean left hook that Canelo did, Billy Joe's face cracked. His fucking eye socket got blown out. Not to say that that was funny to watch. I obviously don't give a shit about Billy Joe, but it obviously wasn't a good fight from there on out. I felt bad based on the severity of his damages, but I didn't really have that much remorse for it, because he's still an evil person. But either way, Billy Joe did not show out to fight like the old Billy Joe many would perceive him to be. So now with Caleb Plant in the picture as the final gemstone for Undisputed, a lot of people are thinking that Caleb Plant is just like Billy Joe Saunders. And that is simply not true. Caleb Plant is levels above Billy Joe Saunders. He has great slick boxer puncher ability. He has amazing athleticism. He has a great jab. He has respectable power. He knows how to use good reflexes and use angles around the ring to get you off balance. So I don't think Canelo is going to have this advantage where he knows how to cut you off in the ring, because it obviously showed in the Billy Joe Saunders fight Canelo cannot win, and he can't beat somebody that has a slick outside boxing style. Because even if you're slick on the inside like Floyd Mayweather at least pushed you back with his jab. So Canelo, he knew damn well what Billy Joe Saunders was going to do to him, but he did not understand the arithmetic methodology of Billy Joe Saunders' footwork. And I think what Billy Joe tried to do, he tried to trade with Canelo versus outboxing Canelo. If he just outboxed Canelo, Canelo would have easily lost that fight, which he was losing that fight. The judges had Canelo losing that fight. So it had to show that Billy Joe, he gave the good effort of giving Canelo the blueprint of defeat, where he struggles with slick boxer punchers. And I think when Canelo meets a fighter like that, a guy that's going to give him pressure with boxing ability and frustration, he's not going to win. And that's what I keep saying to Canelo Alvarez retarded fans, to say that Canelo is not this type of guy that could just beat every single style. Canelo is a very, very vulnerable type fighter. You may disagree, but Canelo Alvarez is a amazing fighter when he fights guys that are at his skill level. But he is not a good fighter when he fights guys that are levels above him. Now, do I think Caleb Plant has a good chance of defeating Canelo? Yes, I do. I don't think Caleb Plant is coming to just get his ass beat. He's obviously coming to fight. He's coming to give Canelo hell. But Canelo, he's going to come in there with hell too. So I guess the question remains, what would you as a Canelo fan want Canelo to do better than his last two fights? Or his last three bum-ass fights? Because obviously Caleb Smith, Billy Ho, and Avni Yildirim were the only fights that were pretty much tailor-made for him, in the sense like he didn't really give a shit. He kind of just went about his way, and he just got all the titles through, Scott's free, mandatory challenging. Which, I mean, he was coming up from 160 to challenge for 168, but remind you, he got a title at 175 and then vacated to go back down to 160 and then make the move to 168. So Canelo obviously got the complexion for protection. Not to say that doesn't exist. It obviously does. And the people that are, in that, mindset framework, will definitely change, their way of thinking for good. But yeah, that's pretty much what I had to say. I don't think Canelo is going to have an easy night against Caleb Plant. I think Caleb Plant styles on Canelo. It's not going to be no inside fighting game. I think he's going to keep it to the outside. Give Caleb Plant his his shine, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So I will get going. Yeah, well, yeah, that's pretty much it. Alright, well, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see y'all later. Bye.